Hi guys, welcome to my Cisco ASA demo. In this video I'll show you how to use a startup wizard to configure a Cisco ASA appliance. I'm using the demo mode because I don't have a real Cisco ASA appliance, and the version of ASDM is version 7.1 hotfix 6, as you can see here. So if we log in, we can start the demo. Okay, so it's just loading the demo mode, and it's loaded. So if we go to wizards, and there's a few wizards in here, but we're using the startup wizard. So if I click on that, and the first page is the starting point, so it's step 1 of 11, and we can modify the configuration from here, the existing one, or we can also do a reset configuration to factory defaults. If you select that, it will let you specify an IP address so you can connect to it if the ASA appliance has been resetted to factory defaults. But we're going to go for the modify existing configuration and walk through the steps. So let's click next, and the next page is the basic configuration. So the first part is the host name. So specify the host name, the firewall. We can just specify firewall name, Cisco ASA, my firewall. So let's go for Cisco ASA. And the hostname appears in the command line prompt, is where it will be most visible, as well as the host name on the dashboard here. So my firewall, we've just changed to Cisco ASA. Next, specify the domain name. So the security appliance appends the domain name as a suffix to unqualified names. It is also used for certificate authentication as well, so give it a domain name here. I'll just give it my website name. And then you need a password to be able to log into ASDM and the CLI, so you can specify a password here. Specify the old password. If it's brand new, it won't have a password. The old password will be blank, and you can specify a new password. We'll leave this blank because if you click next, it gives you a warning about the password, which you can see here. So new privilege mode, password is blank. This is our security. Do you want to continue? If we click no, we can configure it. If we click next again, that warning should go away. And we come to the next section, which is step 3, and this is outside interface configuration. So you can configure the outside interface from here and choose enable interface and provide an interface name here, as well as you can specify which is the outside interface from this option here. So we've got these interfaces here. You can specify whichever one you want the interface to be for your outside interface. That looks like a suitable name outside, but you can change it to external or internet facing if it's internet facing, whatever. Enable the interface from here and give it a security level. And with security levels, you can pick from a number between 0 and 100, with 0 being the least trusted and 100 being the most trusted security level. So typically the outside interface would be 0, the internal would be 100, and every other interface would be anything in between 0 and 100. And by default, traffic flow is allowed from higher security level to lower security level, but blocked the other way around, as in from lower to higher security level, unless it's explicitly permitted within your firewall ACL rules. Then you can specify an IP address and subnet mask once you've configured this section, so we'll leave it as default, and you can specify an IP address here. If you don't want to specify an IP address, your ISP may support the use of DHCP, so you may obtain an IP address via DHCP. And also if you click that, you can also obtain a default route through DHCP as well by ticking this box here. And then there's also the option of using point-to-point over Ethernet as well. So you can use this option. If you select this option, the next page will let you configure the point-to-point over Ethernet settings. So if we click next here, we can see the point-to-point over Ethernet settings here, and you've got to configure this section here. Most of it is information that you will retrieve from your ISP, such as your group name, your user authentication, your authentication methods. You may have an IP address that you can manually specify from the ISP, or you will just obtain it through the point-to-point over Ethernet protocol, and also you can obtain a default route through the point-to-point over Ethernet service as well. So we'll go back to use the following IP address, and we'll click next here. So the next part of this is configuring your other interfaces. So any other interfaces, it may be your internal network, it may be a DMZ, it may be some web services off a particular interface you want to configure. So you can configure any of these from here. You can double click any interface. Let's just click one of these, and you can see the interface properties. Again, you can enable the interface, you can specify the security level for it, you can specify the name for it, and you can also give it an IP address, so IP address and subnet mask from here, as well as you can again use DHCP or point-to-point over Ethernet, as we've already had a look at, and you've also got your IP version 6 settings in here. So if we click cancel here, and there's also two options at the bottom as well. So you've got enable traffic between two or more interfaces with the same security levels. So the option means traffic will be allowed between these interfaces if you have two interfaces with the same security level. By default, traffic is denied between two interfaces with the same security level, and you may want to enable this. A common example is when using VLANs. You may have more than 101 VLANs. Because security levels is only between 0 and 100. You may have 200-300 VLANs, so you're going to use the same security level for some of the interfaces, so you may want to enable traffic between those interfaces as well. And then you've got enable traffic between two or more hosts connected to the same interface. So this is used, you can check this, so two or more hosts can communicate between the same interface, and a common scenario is when using remote VPN. So when a remote user hits the ASA interface and is going back out to the internet, and you want to enable this as well. I think it's called a hairpin mode in Checkpoint anyway, to enable the user to do split tunneling to go back out to the internet as well. So there you go. If we click next here, you can configure your static routes from here. So any routes to any other networks, or maybe even your default route, configure them over here. So if we click add, you can see you've got some options in here: IP version 4 or IP version 6. You can specify the interface the static route will be through to reach the particular destination network. Specify the network, specify the gateway IP address the network belongs to. If you click on these, you've got objects in here already, from the objects you've already put in the past, or you can create new ones as well by clicking add here and creating new objects. So this is host only because it's gateway IP. For network, you can again click that, you can add, and you can specify your host or network from here as well. And gateway IP address, of course, we've mentioned that one. There's also the metric. So for metric, if you have two routes to the same destination network, then you can specify the metrics here. The lower metric wins, so by default the metric is 1. You may want to change it if you have two different routes to the same destination network. So this is a measure used by the routing protocol to calculate the best path to a given destination if it learns multiple paths to the same destination. So you can also have the metric the same, and this is called load balancing. So to have a look at this functionality with ECMP, if you specify metric load balancing or ECMP literature on Google, you should find a lot more information on that. We've got some further options here, so you can have none and just have a simple static route. You can have tunneled, which specifies the route as the default tunnel gateway for VPN traffic. You've got tracked. So tracked is another name for the SLA monitoring functionality, where you can track the availability of a static route. It allows the Cisco ASA to remove static routes from its routing table if it thinks that the route is not available. So you can click tracked here. Then you've got a few other options in here as well, such as the track ID. So enter unique ID identifier for the route tracking process. Then you've got the tracking IP address, so enter the IP address, or I think the host name you can specify in here as well, of the target being tracked, and typically this would be the IP address of the next hop gateway for the route, but it could be any network object available off that interface. Then you've got the SLA ID, enter a unique identifier for the SLA monitoring process. Target interface. So target interface, this is specifying the target interface you would like to track through. The target interface is the interface through which you will be polling the destination IP address to determine if the route through that interface is valid. And then you've got further monitoring options in here, but these are kind of advanced stuff, like the frequency for the ICMP checks, how often in seconds the security appliance should test for the presence of the tracking target. So I'll cancel that, and we'll move on to the next step in the wizard, which is DHCP server. So you can enable the DHCP server on the inside interface. I believe it says it somewhere here. So enable DHCP server on the inside interface. To enable DHCP server on any other interface, you can do this, but it's in the DHCP options outside this wizard. So this wizard only lets you do it for the inside interface. So typically the DHCP function on the ASA is used in small networks where there isn't a DHCP server deployed, like Microsoft DHCP or Infoblox or something, and you can make the Cisco ASA appliance a DHCP server in which it will lease out IP addresses to clients. So you can specify the IP pool here, the starting IP address and the end IP address of the IP addresses you allow to be leased out to clients or hosts. Specify your DNS and WINS parameters here, so to be able to resolve names to IP addresses. You can put in your lease length in seconds here. Enter the amount of time the client can use its leased IP address before it expires, basically. So valid values are from 300 to a very large number, and the default is 3600 seconds. The ping timeout here, you'd enter parameters for this as well. This is basically to avoid address conflicts. The security appliance sends 2 ICMP ping packets to an address before assigning that address to a DHCP client. The default value is 50 milliseconds, but it can be from 10 to, I think it's 10,000 milliseconds. And then enter a valid DNS domain name here, for example sec.com, example.com, cisco.com, whatever. And this section, enable auto configuration from interface. So check this checkbox to enable DHCP auto configuration and select the interface from the menu. So you've got these options. DHCP auto configuration causes the DHCP server to provide DHCP clients with DNS server, domain name and Win server information obtained from a DHCP client running on the specified interface. So it can retrieve that information, and it can distribute that information to clients. But if this above information has been specified and you've enabled it from here, this information takes precedence. If there's something missing from here, then it will obtain it through this functionality here. So let's just take that off and click next. So the next section is network address translation, and this page is informing us that NAT needs to be configured outside of the wizard. I'll expect to see this functionality soon, but it's not supported at the moment. It is supported in the wizard if you're using an old version of the Cisco ASA prior to version 8.3. However, after 8.2 they changed the way NAT works, so it's not currently supported in the wizard yet. So there's been major changes with NAT after version 8.2, so they've not brought that functionality into this wizard. So if we click next here, and this is administrative access, step 8 of 11. So management access to the firewall, so you can specify your admin's face and IP addresses from which admins are allowed to connect from here. So if we can click add, we can click edit here. The access type, so what kind of access you'd allow, so it could be HTTPS, ASDM, or it could be SSH or Telnet. Usually SSH or the top two are configured, Telnet is insecure. And then you could specify the IP address and the subnet mask from where you'd permit clients to connect from. That's pretty much it for that. You've got another option here, enable HTTP server for HTTP ASDM access, so disabling this. Disabling HTTP server will prevent HTTPS ASDM access to this ASA, so that should be left enabled. Also, you've got enable ASDM history metrics. So the history metrics pane lets you configure the adaptive security appliance to keep a history of various stats which ASDM can display on any graph table. So if you do not enable history metrics, you can only monitor stats in real time. So it's good to enable this option, and let's click next. So step 9 is AutoUpdate Server. So to enable communication between the ASA appliance and an AutoUpdate server at Cisco for updates of the ASA configuration as well as software images, ASDM images, Cisco ASA images, check this checkbox here and fill out the required parameters here. So fill out the URL of the update server. You can use the secure HTTPS, or you can use HTTP. With HTTPS you've got the option to verify the server's SSL certificate. So to confirm that an SSL certificate is enabled on the AutoUpdate server, you'd check this tick box here. So you've got the user information, the credentials, enter username and password to allow you to log into the update server from here, and device identity, so you can enable the authentication using a device ID, and the device ID is used to uniquely identify the security appliance to the AutoUpdate server, and then you can specify the type of ID you'd want to use. So you've got these options here for the type of ID. Go with none, click next. Server must be defined, IP address or host name. Because I've enabled it, you've got to fill out these parameters, so I'll just disable it all again. Click next, and this is step 10 of 11, which is pretty much I think this is the last page. So well, step 11 of 11 is the last page, but this is the last meaningful one to configure any parameters. So you've got you can send errors and debug messages back to Cisco. You can have the option as anonymous, or you can register. With register you get some more additional benefits as well. or you could specify that you do not want to enable smart call home functionality or to remind you later. And you can read this to get some more information on what each option is and how it will affect you. So if we click next here, the last page, step 11 of 11, is just a summary page to show you what's been changed, or what the configuration will look like, and then you can click on finish and the wizard will go away. The Cisco ASA appliance will go and configure it for you and return back to the dashboard. As for me, I can't really do anything because it's just demo mode, so that's pretty much it for me, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.